Welcome back, people. How's the form of you? In this video I am continuing my Jenova project. To begin with, I need to submerge the figure in resin. To do this, I used a plastic sheet shaped around a CD case. The shape was kept in place using zip ties and hot glue. Leaks were sealed using a cheap silicone. The sheer size of the project required multiple pours of resin. With Jenova encased, I can now move on to the tank. Man, the peeling of this was satisfying. The internal parts of the tank were made of a disc of plasticard, a peanut tub and its lid, and the base of a house light. I placed the house light base in the center. This was to allow the light to shine through later on. With all these parts glued together, I added clothes pegs and random plastic junk, greebling and cords. With the clothes pegs placed, I had some plastic junk I came across to add further detail. Some lengths of cord, bass string and wire were used for cabling. To add structure, resin was pre-added to the lid. With the resin set, the center was cut out and zip ties were added for details. With all the detailing done, the internals were primed and sprayed with gunmetal. Some details were picked out and everything else was oil washed and later highlighted with silver. One of the cards received the obligatory hazard stripes. The oil wash was pulled back using white spirits and makeup sponges. The edges were picked out using an acrylic pen. To prevent the resin from leaking, food packaging was used along with UV resin. Now, with the internals all painted up and sealed, then came the resin pour. Here I am using plastic card to get the dimensions for the next section. To combine this sealed figure with the base, it was rimmed with plastic card and sealed with UV resin. This was followed by a similar paint job for the rim. More oil wash. Washing back the oil. And edge highlighting. Pouring the final resin for the project. When attaching the figure, I used too much resin, which led to a difficult cleanup after. Alright, with the externals all done, the base was made from an old hubcap I found, and the internals of an old broken clock. The gaps were filled with plastic sheeting. The spaces left at the back were filled with spray bottle internals, air freshener parts, and a corrugated pipe. The fine greebling details were done with a shaving cap and some lighter internals. Unfortunately, I lost the footage for this, but the front was basically filled with cut up Nerf gun, broken CD player buttons and small electronic parts. For the cap, I used some foam core surrounded by plastic sheeting. It was rimmed with plastic card. With that done, I topped the cap with a disc of plastic card and sanded it to shape. A hole was cut out to inlay the lights for later. A razor cap was inlaid to add some much needed detail on the side of the cap. A seaweed jar lid was used to hide the lights. Some electronic packaging was used to add some inlaid detail to the cap. Further detail was added using air freshener parts and other electronic parts. A counterfeit Lego piece was used to inlay further detail. It was greeblied with some juice pack necks. To help with the attachment alignment, leftover pegs were used to mark out where I would place it. Taking a break from the top cap, I gribbly the lower cap with rhinestones and keyboard keys. The detail was rounded off with some panel lining using an old hobby knife. Alright, back onto the top cap. Some wood bits were inlaid with magnets and attached on a flat surface with blunted blades to keep it level. The wood pieces and their magnets were glued into place and allowed to set on a flat surface to keep it level. With the hot glue set, I removed the blades and attached them to the lower cap. Alright, that's the cap done, so it is attached to the main model. Back onto the base. To blend the parts together, I banded the peanut lid with plastic card. This plastic card was sanded off screen. Adding further detail to the base, I added a halved razor cap. Plumbing putty was used to fill the major gaps, along with more sheets of plastic card. The plastic sheeting repeatedly fell off, so I used some foam core to add strength, along with some other electronic greebling. The sheet was reattached with a window cutout for the purpose of Lego inlays. These were sanded back off screen. These inlays were greeblied with plastic clip buttons, juice pack necks and more electronic parts. The oxygen tanks were built with Yakult bottles, Guinness can balls and shampoo bottle innards. They were later detailed with panel lines and rhinestones. The Guinness ball was halved and glued to the bottom of the Yakult bottle. Shampoo parts were glued into the neck and finished with rhinestones. Holes are then drilled to add the oxygen tanks. They were temporarily attached to the main model. The base of the statue that Sephiroth rips off was made with air freshener trigger, pegs, and an assortment of cords and wires. This is the trigger with the pegs glued onto the side. Some spray bottle hinges, plastic card and craft beads and base string were used to add further detail. Shampoo internals were used to tie in the statue to the base of the entire figure. Some screen cord was used to finish off the detailing for the ruined statue. This was attached to the base with more shampoo innards. Final detailing was completed with more rhinestones and panel lines. When panel lighting, use a straight edge with a series of light scores. With the building done, the model was primed and based gunmetal. Using the exact same techniques as before, I start with an oil wash. After the oil wash is pulled back and dry, I line off the edges with an acrylic pen, like before. Some of the cords were painted red and yellow, washed and dry brushed. Hazard stripes were painted on the oxygen tanks using an airbrush and masking tape. They were later highlighted with brighter colours. The Shinra logo was airbrushed on to begin with details done with a brush and ink liner. The logo was continued by filling in the centre with a red, the border was done with a thin fine liner. And painting the diamond and kanji with a white. For the obvious warning symbol on the top cap, I sketched out the lettering with a fine liner and painted over the top. This needed a couple of coats and touch-ups. The Mako Energy caution symbol was done in the exact same way. The center was filled in with white for coverage and then coated over with a yellow. The border was drawn in with a thick fine liner. The swirls of the macro energy were done with a thinner fineliner. Final weathering was done on the base with a green wash and brown wash elsewhere. So the base of the ruined statue was coated in a thick brown wash to simulate the spillage of mechanical fluids. The same brown wash was painted in downward streaks to simulate moisture. The lights were added, and that is all she wrote. With the top light placed, the cap was snapped into place, sliding the lower light into place like butter. That is a class effect. I hope you had as much fun watching this as I did making it. Enjoy the beauty shots, and please like and subscribe. Take her handy, ladies and gents.